Good morning. Good morning. All right, I wanted to make this a more interactive kind of sermon presentation, and I wanted to pick something that was near and dear to my heart. I've been into fitness and nutrition for many years. Actually, I look back and I taught fitness classes back 30 years ago here at the church for many years until Sydney was born. And some people were in my class, and I think about 30 years ago, and I go, oh my gosh, that was such a long time ago. but Dick and Becky were in the class, Jackie, Judy Mercer, and I believe Sylvia was in some of them as well, and other people that came from outside of our church. And so it was a lot of fun, and it's always been something that I love to do, and I still work out, even though I don't have an opportunity to teach. And I keep saying on my bucket list, after I retire one day, hopefully I'm going to go back to teaching and personal training, which has always been fun for me. But anyway, I want to talk about a shack or a temple. So sometimes we can feel like shacks, right? It's, we maybe eat the wrong foods, and we don't have the energy, and we don't want to get out of bed in the morning. And then there's other days where we can eat really well and eat healthy, and we feel like we got lots of energy, and we're that temple, right? And so God tells us that we are to be temples. Our bodies are temples of God. So, how many of you believe that you could eat healthier if someone else cooked for you? Okay. How many of you believe you could eat and become a vegan or have a raw foods diet if someone cooked for you? Now, if Diana came over and cooked for all of us, we could probably all do vegan diets and raw food diets, right? But I haven't convinced her to do that yet, but I'm still working on her. All right, so how many of you are willing to make, you think, one or more changes in your diet, that easy changes, to help better resemble a temple versus a shack? All right, good job. We should see everybody's hand go up, right? Okay. 1 Corinthians 6:19 and 20, and that was our scripture for the day. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you and whom you have received from God? You are not your own, but you were bought with a price, or at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. All right, so as we know, and we've come so far away from it, at one time, there was fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, right, that Adam and Eve ate. And we've gotten away from that type of diet as time has gone on. And with the flood, and then, God told them they could eat meat, but there was the clean meats and the clean fish and not anything and everything they wanted to eat. And then it takes us to Daniel's time. And I love this story because, they had opportunities to eat whatever they wanted. When Daniel and his friends were captured by Nebuchadnezzar and taken to Babylon, they were there at the palace, right? And they were given all kinds of rich foods, anything they wanted to eat, anything they wanted to drink. And Daniel didn't necessarily want to do that, right? He asked if they could eat just vegetables and drink just water. Now, how many of you would be willing to say, wow, it's like going to potluck on Sabbath and saying, no, I just want those fresh vegetables over there, and I'm just going to have some water. It's a tough thing to do, especially when you see everything that's out there in front of you. That's our challenge, right? It says, but Daniel said to the overseer, whom the commander of the officials had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days, and let us be given some vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance be observed in your presence, and the appearance of the youths who are eating the king's choice food. And deal with your servants according to what you see. So he listened to them in this matter and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, their appearance seemed better, and they were fatter, which we normally don't like to hear that word, right, than all the youths who had been eating the king's choice food. So the overseer continued to withhold their choice food and the wine they were to drink, and kept giving them vegetables. Amen, right? So again, I'm not saying that we all have to go to vegetables and water, but when you see that type of a situation, it does definitely makes you stop and think. Okay, all the foods that are out there for us today aren't necessarily the best choices for us, but there's so many choices. And here's a picture of Daniel and what we many times heard as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, refusing all those wonderful foods that everybody else was eating and saying, no, we want the healthy foods. We want the vegetable and the water. So with that, I thought we'd do a fun little quiz. You get to grade your own papers, unless you just want to trade papers. So no one has to see your answers, but they're going to pass out a quiz, and we'll go through it just to give everybody an opportunity. Guys ready? How many servings of grains, etc., should you eat each day? Now, I know some people are gluten intolerant, and the reason they say grains is for fiber purposes mainly. But you can get fiber in a lot of different ways. But how many, according to our government, nutritionally, how many servings of grains? A, B, or C? C, 6 to 11. All right. Now remember, if you're eating white bread or you're eating bagels that are, don't really have any fiber in them, it doesn't really count toward that fiber content. But number 2, how many servings of vegetables should you eat each day as a minimum? I put that in there as a minimum because you really can't eat too many vegetables, right? But most of us have a challenge getting to our daily minimums. So A, 5 to 7, B, 1 to 2, or C, 3 to 5. Well, C is the minimum, 3 to 5, but definitely A gives you bonus points, 5 to 7. And 3, how many servings of dairy products, if you're not a vegan, are suggested you consume daily for calcium purposes? A, B, or C? B, 2 to 3 servings. And 4, how many servings of fruit should you eat each day? B, 2 to 3. And again, it's a little different than drinking fruit juice, because I know fruit juice, even if it's 100% fruit juice, is so concentrated with natural sugars that it's really better to eat the piece of fruit, because then you have the fiber and your body doesn't absorb that sugar right away like it doesn't when you have a concentrated juice that you're drinking. All right, so number 5, how many servings of clean meats and or dry beans and nuts should you eat daily for protein? C, 2 to 3. And again, it doesn't mean that you eat the whole chicken or that you eat 4, cups of beans. It's a small serving. We'll talk about that a little bit later. What normally constitutes a serving? A, B, or C? A half a cup. Now, if it's like green leafy vegetables, those would be a cup, because there's usually don't pack down like if you're putting something in that's more dense. All right, which items below on 7 contain vitamin C? Which item or items? All of them. Good job. Yep, A, B, and C. Green veggies, citrus fruits, baked potatoes. And when you eat the baked potato, it's good to eat the skin. So you always want to make sure you wash the skin before you cook them. All right, 8, which item provides the most fiber per serving? C, kidney beans. All right, and just a little side note on kidney beans. If you eat a cup and a half of kidney beans a day, I know that's a lot of beans, or black beans, that would give you your entire requirement for fiber every day. So you're supposed to get in 28 grams of fiber in your diet each and every day. If you eat a cup and a half is a lot, but a half a cup will give you almost 10 grams of fiber. So that's something to think about when you're needing to get fiber in. Okay. And I do have a great recipe for brownies with beans, black beans, and you can't taste the black beans. So I'll have to make them for potluck sometime. You just won't tell anybody. I won't. I'll tell you after you eat them. Okay. So calcium's needed on number 9 to build and keep strong bones and teeth. Which item has the least amount of calcium? A. So pasta. Sardines have a lot of calcium, as does yogurt. And 10, most Americans consume the largest amount of calcium from which of those items? Milk, cheese, or yogurt? Cheese. Most of us love cheese, right? Of some kind. All right, so flipping it over on 11, how many 8-ounce glasses of water should we normally drink each day to keep our bodies hydrated? C, 8. And actually, because everybody's different, weights and sizes, the rule of thumb is you take your body weight, you divide it by 2, and that number is the number of ounces you're supposed to drink every day. So if you weighed 110 pounds versus 210 pounds, your water requirement is going to be a little different, right? So again, take your body weight, divide by 2, and that's the number of ounces per day. All right, so number 12, a serving of what food group should only be the size of a deck of cards? B, meat, right? So small amounts of protein. Most people get far more protein than they need in their diets. We definitely need protein, but it needs to be balanced out with complex carbs and other nutrients. So 13, how many grams of sugar equal 1 teaspoon of sugar? This is key. Everybody needs to know this before they leave today. B, 4 grams, right? So if something has 8 grams of sugar in it, that means it has 2 teaspoons, right? All right, next question, and this applies to adults, even though it says teenagers. What's the recommended a maximum number of grams of added sugar that teenagers should consume each day? A, and those are grams. So divide that by 4, and you've got 5 to 6 or 7 teaspoons, right? Now, same thing with, and 8 if you're a bigger teenager. And it does go by body weight, too, because women should really keep theirs at 6 to 7 teaspoons a day, and men can go up to 8 to 9. So, again, it depends on your body size. So when we get a little bit further down here, you'll see that doesn't go very far. Because number 15, how many teaspoons of added sugar are in a 12-ounce Starbucks Frappuccino? Okay, now remember, 12 ounces, they're small. They're tall, and that's 12 teaspoons. That's not grams, that's actual teaspoons. If you get a venti, which is like the really big one, that's probably closer to about 30 teaspoons of sugar, which is way over the daily allotment. And some people get those every morning on their way to work for breakfast, and that wreaks havoc on the body. So it's something to think about because breakfast is our most important meal of the day, right? We've fasted overnight, our body's repaired itself, we get up first thing in the morning, we need to put something nutritious in our bodies. So 16, which has the most sugar and calories per serving? You got the waffle with syrup, the bagel with cream cheese, or the cinnamon roll? Cinnamon roll has over 800 calories normally and about 55 grams of sugar. So 17, what does carbonated soda block from being absorbed in your body? Calcium, B. Probably blocks some other things too, but that's the main item. 18, diet and lack of exercise are major contributors to obesity in America. What percentage of adults in America are overweight or obese? It's C, unfortunately. And unfortunately, our American diet has kind of taken a side track with all of our different options that we've been given. And to drop 1 pound a week, so if you're just doing something to drop 1 pound a week, how many calories do you need to burn and not replace? C, 3,500. So if you drop 500 calories a day, that's just 500 calories. That could be a piece of cake, that could be some extra cheese and bread. If you drop 500 calories a day, you'll lose 1 pound a week. If you add walking to that, you could actually every day go walking, you could probably take about 2 pounds off a week. Which of the following food items are smart snacks versus empty snacks? All of them, yeah. If your popcorn's unbuttered, unsalted, if you have a sliced apple with peanut butter, or a handful of nuts. Yeah, those are all great snacks. All right, so how'd you guys do? You don't have to tell me. All right. So who knows what America's first love is? Sugar, right? Which Shirley Temple has a lot of sugar in it too. Anyway, so the average American adult consumes 22 teaspoons, that's 88 grams, of sugar each day. That's the average person out there. That's those that, probably get a Frappuccino in the morning, grab a donut, whatever, have lunch, depending on what they're eating during the day. It is easy. And because of that, it's hard because a lot of that stuff, as it shows before, sugar is all around us. The average American child consumes 32 teaspoons because it's usually in their cereal, it's in muffins, it's in everything pretty much that we eat. Even things that we don't think it's in, like milk. If you look at fat-free milk, 1 cup, I think, has 2 or 3 teaspoons in it. So it's just, lactose. But breads, ketchup, salad dressing, processed foods. If you look at that nutritional information on the backside, you'll see. The further down it is on the list, the better. So just keep that in mind. And what does sugar do? We love it. It tastes good. I love sweets. I'll be the first to admit. Some people don't. I know Lisa, she'd rather have pasta. I'd rather eat the salad and have cheesecake for dessert. That's me, right? But, so we all have our weaknesses when it comes to foods, me included. But, what sugar does is it raises our risk of heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer, and cancers. So something we need to be very much aware of. And if we don't only change one thing in here today, I would hope that we would all go down on our sugar consumption. And I don't know how many of you know, Mark Anthony is going to be here the first weekend in October. He's the certified raw food chef. He's going to be here the whole weekend teaching us about raw food, cooking, and all kinds of great information. I know that's the same weekend as Christian Women's Retreat, the first weekend. So hopefully all of you can go the second weekend, all of you women, and be here for the first weekend. Because he's going to have, I've heard he makes this cheese sauce that's to die for, and it has no cheese and or dairy in it. So, we all have to check this out because I've heard lots of wonderful things, and he's going to be here the weekend of October 1st and 2nd. So do keep that in mind. We'll be getting some information out here shortly. Okay, so how much sugar did Americans eat in the 1800s? This is per year. Each one of those are 5 pounds. So in the 1800s, per year, each average American ate about 4.5 5-pound bags overall. All right, look at today. Those are 19 5-pound bags. Just because it's all around us and it's everywhere. So one thing, if nothing else, we could all change would be to reduce our sugar consumption. Really think about what we're doing. Okay, so I wanted to share with you what I think are some kind of need-to-know health rules that I've read about and I've done some research on. There's also a great book out there called The New Health Rules by Dr. Frank Lipman out of New York. He has a health center back there and a wellness center. And his book is about 300 pages, and that's like 300 rules. But it covers everything and anything you could ever think of. Excellent book. Every rule is 1 page, so you can read just 2 pages or 10 pages or whatever you want to do. But it covers exercise. It covers just anything and everything. So, all right, first one is, if you can change one thing, that's, as we talked about, get rid of sugar or reduce your sugar consumption, and that includes the artificial sweeteners like the saccharin, the Splenda, which is also known as sucralose, if you see it on the nutritional list, and aspartame, which is really bad. And, those are in all your diet sodas. Most of your diet foods all have those chemical sweeteners in it. And from research, it shows that most time, if you're eating lots of artificial stuff with artificial sweeteners in it, you'll eat more food because it tricks your body into thinking that you're hungry still. So, one thing to think about. Another thing is, how many of you do this now? Drink a glass of water first thing in the morning with lemon water. It's with room temperature tepid water, and you put 3 teaspoons of lemon juice in there first thing in the morning when you get up, because it does help to balance your pH levels. And researchers say that if you can keep your body in an alkaline state versus an acidic state, it will prevent you from getting many types of cancers. So a lot of things we eat take us to the acidic side. So this takes us back to a neutral and gets us on the alkaline side first thing in the morning. It also helps boost your immune system and helps with your digestive health. So it's a great habit to get into if you can do it. And that's just one little change first thing in the morning. Plus you get a cup of water. So that goes towards your water needs for the day, right? Skip the sodas. That's an important rule. And I will admit, my one vice, I say, is Diet Coke. I love Diet Coke. But I try not to drink it, except maybe once a week, because I always love it with pizza, unfortunately. But I know it's not good for me, and I know I need to stay away from it. So that is one of those things. But I'm sad when I see people that drink 1 every day or 2 every day. I've known people that have drank in 2-liter bottles every day instead of coffee in the morning. That's how they get going. And all those chemicals and dyes and everything in the sodas, and then with the diet sodas, you have all the chemicals. Soda, 1 can of soda has like 14 teaspoons of sugar in it. So it's not good either way you go on the soda. But if you can replace that with either, iced herbal tea, or you can have water, especially in the summer, water with fresh fruit in it, and add a little bit of Splenda. I know Rod Western, unfortunately, he's allergic to Splenda because it's made from a plant. But it's all natural, and it doesn't have any calories, and it doesn't affect, if you're diabetic, it doesn't affect your blood sugar levels. But it's an excellent way to sweeten things, and it's healthy. So if you can do that, stevia, what did I say, Splenda? Sorry, bloop, back up. Stevia, yeah. Stevia is the one that's plant-based. So that's the one that you want to try to have in your water or whatever you want to sweeten teas. It's really, really nice, and it doesn't take much. And then, of course, strive for clean eating. And that's, your fresh fruits, your fresh vegetables, nuts, legumes, clean meats. And if you can get a variety of colors in your vegetables, that's the best thing, because each different color represents different vitamins and minerals. And so the more variety of colors you can get, the more variety of nutrients you're going to get as well. Okay, who's heard that sitting is the new smoking? Yeah, from me. And because, and this didn't used to be an issue, but now because so many of us are sitting in front of our computers, on our iPads, sitting with our phones, sitting in the office with our computers, we're not getting up and we're not moving. And you need to be moving at least once an hour. So if you're sitting at your desk a lot, or at your home and on your iPad or computer, try to set a little alarm to make yourself get up and move, because your blood pools. And even if you exercise in the morning, because I thought, I exercise every morning, so it doesn't matter. It does matter, because your blood is pooling when you're sitting for that length of time, and not good on your body. So we were not meant to sit for long periods of time. If possible, try to get 15 minutes of sunshine in. If you're going to be out all day, of course, you want to wear sunscreen. But now what we're hearing is that because people are wearing sunscreen all the time, they're not getting any sunshine on their skin, and they're not getting any vitamin D in their skin. And there's a lot of people out there now that are vitamin D deficient. So if you can go out there for 15 minutes early in the morning before the sun's at its most intense time, it's a great time to get a little bit of sunshine. Of course, if you're going to be out a long time, then you want to have sunscreen. All right, so smaller fish, are they better than bigger fish? According to the researchers, yes, because they have less mercury in them. Okay, when the mercury falls, the plankton eat the mercury, the smaller fish eat the plankton, the bigger fish eat the smaller fish, and all that mercury continues to get stored in the fish. So they say the smaller the fish, the better, to get less mercury. Also, if you're out there, and I know this has been a big issue for me, and I probably drive my husband crazy when I go to restaurants. I'll say, is that farm raised or wild caught? Because Sometimes they don't know. If they don't know, it's probably farm raised, because now a lot of the restaurants are advertising, and Costco is advertising too if they have wild caught salmon, because the farm raised, many of them are in these ponds of water, and they're not filtrated very well, and so they're swimming around in dirty water. They're giving them antibiotics to keep them from getting sick. They're feeding them GMO corn, which has pesticides and everything else from the crops. And so by the time you get it, it's somewhat of a chemical fish. And a lot of times they end up dyeing the meat to make it look better. So those are things just to think about when you're out there shopping or at a restaurant. And then talking about GMO, how many of you heard a lot about GMO recently, right? Not good. Genetically modified organisms. So there's a lot of stuff out there with GMO, and on the next slide I'll show you that there's a little certification that you can see on the packaging that tells you if it is non-GMO. And there's a company or organization that's nongmoproject.org that you can go to and learn more information about where to shop, what to look for, etc. But the seeds on the crops have been injected with chemicals and hormones, antibiotics, pesticides to help the crops to survive drought, to survive pests and different diseases that the crops can get. So because of that, we end up getting, that ends up being consumed by us. So if you, as I mentioned before, if you need to include clean meats in your diet, we don't expect everybody to go vegetarian or vegan, right? But with all the meat issues out there today, it is a better way if you can go vegetarian. But then you got to go non-GMO too. But if you do look for, free-range, grass-fed, cage-free, crate-free, those types of things, wild-caught, because those are the areas where you're going to get the better quality, the cleaner food, the less chemicals, less hormones. Because I just read this, which was alarming to me. There's 30 million pounds of antibiotics produced in the United States. 80% of that is being consumed by livestock and animals versus people. So people are only getting 20% of the antibiotics that are produced, and 80% are going to the livestock to keep them healthy. So, of course, when we're eating that, then we're building up a tolerance level with the antibiotics in our bodies so that whenever you do get sick, and they said this because people are getting bacterial infections and they can't fight them very well because of, you hear a lot about these superbugs and that, but it's just because we're getting that tolerance buildup with the antibiotics. And that's according to the Pew Charitable Trusts. So, wanted to show you, there's the non-GMO project label. Is on a lot of the foods out there at the grocery store. And you can look for that, and that means it's certified as non-GMO. Because I know you guys have heard the stories about, we say that there's organic, but the organic field's next to the pesticide field, right? And all, so there's lots of talk about that. When it's certified, we will hopefully have a trust level that it really is what they say it is. And so if you eat tofu, this is very interesting to me. If you eat tofu, a lot of it is from the soybean that's GMO. It's a GMO soybean. So you think you're eating healthy with tofu, but it's not. So you need to really look for that GMO, non-GMO label. You'll pay a little bit more, but if you're trying to eat healthy and you're eating something that's, genetically modified, that's not going to be the best option. Okay, another fun rule is, how many of us like to eat until we're full? Yeah? I know. And sometimes we don't know we're full until we're full, right? So one rule is eat till you're about 80% full. And it takes our bodies about 20 minutes to know we're full. And so if we are rushing through eating, which I tend to do a lot, you eat more because your body hasn't told you yet you're full because you've eaten a lot in, say, 10 or 15 minutes. So if you can eat slowly, get to that 20-minute level, get to about 80% of full, and then take what's left over, put it away and you can have it for lunch the next day or leftover. Because restaurants are charging more these days, but they're giving you more food to show you that it's just not about the price. Excuse me. But what happens is you get these big meals, and we all learned, a lot of us when we were growing up, you can't waste food. Don't waste food. Eat everything on your plate, so you tend to want to do that, right? And then you're stuffed as you leave. So if you can, take some of that home, save it for another meal. And then another thing would be count the quality of your calories. I know a lot of us sometimes want to keep track of our calories, and so there's those empty calories and those nutritious calories. So remember to make sure we're looking at what's quality versus just the number of calories. And how many of you know the rule when you're at the grocery store? Never go hungry. Don't ever go in there hungry, right? And shop on the perimeter. Because in the middle are all the goodies. But those are the processed foods too. So if you can stay on the perimeters, you're usually going to get the better foods and the fresher foods and the quality foods and not the processed foods. And we're all human, and we're all going to, I kind of gone by that 80-20 rule. Sometimes you got to have a splurge day or a splurge meal, or you want that piece of birthday cake. And, I'm not by any means saying don't ever eat a piece of cake again in your life, right? Or don't ever eat a donut or anything like that. But if we could just incorporate some of these rules into our daily lifestyles and just, little by little try to make healthier choices, plan ahead if we think we're going to be eating maybe something that's not as healthy for us, make sure that the meals before that are definitely more healthy, because you never know. You want to eat as healthy as you can, because your body, you've heard that saying, we are what we eat, right? Well, we are what we eat. I mean, if we eat just junk food, we're going to end up getting sick. And, and could be something worse, a condition that would be causing us a lot of harm, like cancer or something of that nature. So you definitely want to eat as healthy as possible and just make little changes. Have a splurge day once in a while, or a splurge meal, or what day when you're going to choose to have something yummy. But the main objective, and what I wanted to focus on, was, the better we treat our bodies through exercise, sleeping well, eating right, is, we'll have more energy, we'll be able to do more for God, and we'll be honoring God with our bodies. And that's really the important thing, I think, here is, we're not perfect. We're not going to probably eat vegetables and water like Daniel did and never eat anything else again. But something to think about as we just move forward, about maybe making some little changes here and there. So in closing, it says in 1 Corinthians 10:31, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all to the glory of God. Amen? Amen. So let's strive to be God's temples, right? One step at a time. Thank you.